Hey everyone, Corey from Aquariumcoop. Today, I want to take you shopping on the website. I want to talk about plants a lot, and I find that having a visual representation helps and keeps me on track. So mostly education, how to find out how to plant them, how to keep them, what to feed them, and talking about specific plants and just the way we've designed our website, which I realize is going to come across as a sales pitch, but it should be applicable to most plant keepers, whether you're buying from a retail store or you're buying from us or a different online website. Kind of doesn't matter as long as you know where to look. So we're going to hop on the website real quick. Here we are at aquariumcoop.com. And the first thing I want to point you to is not actually where we sell plants. It's some of our education centers. So one big source would be blog articles. And you can see here, like, there's potassium deficiency if you need to learn about that. And in general, you can look over here at planted tanks and the categories, and you could learn about tissue culture plants or why they're melting or any of these articles that we've written over the years. We've been writing articles basically every week for 5 years, not only on planted tanks, but you can see here we actually have 56 articles on planted tanks. There's a lot to learn, right? So that might be a little overwhelming of like, wow, I don't know where to start with that. You could also come in here to the Help Center, which I feel like this is a very underutilized part of our website. And we've got everything from just FAQs to stuff about specific products, common cookie cutter setups, which is one of my favorites, by the way. If you've never looked at this, you can just see like what are some good equipment, and then stocking lists and other stuff and videos, all about 20-gallon tanks in this example. But today we want to focus on the actual plants, so care guides. And you can see here for different species, specifically on how to keep a lot of these plants if you really wanted to dive into, Java fern, right? And we've got links to videos, links to other resources, blog articles and materials and all of that. So that's another source to learn, right? So just free to everybody, come learn about stuff. Now, another great resource is going to be the actual live plant listings themselves, right? So here we go. And let's pretend you're wanting to build a tank. You can actually start using some of these filters up at the top here, and these exist on mobile as well. And so maybe you want a low light tank. Well, you can sort all of our plants by low light. And maybe you're looking for like, oh, I only want red and low light, or I only want background or foreground or medium ground. You can, okay, well, there's your options. 2 of them are sold out. We've got some pogo, right? You've got low light and you wanted background. But let's say you wanted the low light and you want red. There you go. You've got a couple of options. Now, that narrowed it down quite a bit, I would say. And, it'd be much easier. Like, oh, I just want to look at red plants in general. Like, okay, there's the red plants we sell. And you could then go by, are they the background, the midground? And it gets more and more sophisticated over time. We work on it. It's kind of one of the focuses we're working on right now. But if I clear out all of these filters, let's see here, let's go to that one and that one. So now we're back to just kind of main plants. What I want to kind of point out here is when you start kind of clicking here, or not even clicking, you can hover if you're on desktop and see some different pictures on a lot of stuff. What you will see, I'm going to go to this out of stock plant here, which is Vallisneria at the moment. By the way, if you're ordering plants, it's best to order them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They will have the least transit time. So just trying to get people aware of that. But there's going to be lots of information right here, but then in the show more as well. So it's going to say scientific name, where it comes from, the level and how hard it is to grow. And then what I think is very important, this PAR reading right here. This will let you know if you're using our light, what kind of settings to use. And I think that's going to be a big win for a lot of people when they buy into the system, if you will. Now, if you have other lights where they've documented the PAR really well, this is also applicable to you. If you're buying this plant from a competitor or a local fish store, still applicable to you. No matter where you buy this Vallisneria, it will need 20 to 35 PAR. So if you know what your light is putting out or where you're putting in your tank and what the light is there, you will know whether this plant will thrive with that much light. Now, you can also figure out if it wants CO2, which this plant does not have to have CO2, and does it want fertilizer? Answer is yes, Easy Green and root tabs. That could be competitors' fertilizers. Just know that some things like Seachem Flourish, for example, I want to say when I did the math last time, some of the blends compared to Easy Green were like 42 times more potent. So you can get there, but it's kind of like you're going to be walking and I'm driving, and it's a 10-hour drive. So, when it comes to getting what the plants need, sometimes it's easier to go with something like an Easy Green, or if you're in a different country, Dennerle makes some, Tropica makes some. Ours, as far as I'm aware right now, in a liquid fertilizer, is the most concentrated and potent one in America. But things change all the time. This video could get dated. You could be watching this in 5 years. It could be one I don't know about. All I know is ours has rad reviews and everything. You can just find that under plant supplies right here. 5,000 reviews. All the good ones and the bad ones. We've got 4,700 good ones and 30 bad ones. We leave the bad ones there so you can find them. I'm going to go back to plants, though, because we're still talking about the plants. We look at Amazon Sword. Our website is continually being upgraded. We do this to try and help everybody. Customer service, us sell them, you buy them, you keep them, all of that. And you can see here we're starting to put in extra graphics so that, okay, now you know this is a heavy root feeder and you need root tabs, and you can just click and get that link. You will see that plants transitioning, this Amazon Sword, comes in with oval-shaped leaves. That's normal. And then when it transfers or transitions, you get more pointed leaves. And so when you get these round leaves that are dying back, turn yellow, going translucent, yes, does it want fertilizer? Yes, it does. Keep growing. But know that that's a normal transition. And a lot of times what you get from us, it's about half and half. It started that transition. So it has to finish it up in your aquarium. Now down here, you can actually see the pictures of what these plants look like in our warehouse. So we use these exact tanks. You can see the plumbing here. You can see this. Is this a glamour shot? No. It is not our intention to make these plants look as best as possible and Photoshop them to make you buy them. It is our goal to show you what exactly you're getting and how we're growing them, how we're treating them, what we're doing with them. And you wouldn't know it, but the reason that we show this picture is because a lot of competitors never even put the plants into water. They actually order them, take them out of a box, put them into another box, and ship them out to you. And so they don't grow any algae, and there's none of that, but then also they don't have very good roots, and they haven't transitioned at all, and they've been in darkness for a long time, and there's a lot of stuff like that. So we're proud that all of our plants do go into water, and they do start growing, they do transition, they do all of that. And then we've got the liners, right? So everything we ship is going to come with a liner. And it didn't always be that way. It used to be where it was only if it was super cold. And then it was like, well, if it's super cold and or super hot. Now it's just all the time because people love the liners. You can reuse them. If you're buying frozen food at the grocery store or the pet store or wherever, or you want to sell some fish at the local club or just move fish or bring fish home, you've got a little insulated bag. We also include free heat packs when the temperature warrants it. So basically all we're trying to do with plants is keep them from turning to mush, getting way too hot, like over 100 degrees for too long, or freezing to death, right? If we can avoid those, we're then down to just providing plants what they want. And so we're focusing on that. Here we can see that the Amazon swords as low as 10 par, so pretty low lighting if you don't have great lights yet, all the way up to 35 par. And what does that mean? Why only 35 par? Well, you can get to a point where you start providing so much light, you're growing a lot of algae. And so this is the range where this plant will really thrive and you will thrive. You can definitely give it more light and you've got more plants in there and you've got some other stuff going on and all that. But this is the range in which we think you will thrive if you have par in this range. And that's basically a low light range. And if you click here, you can actually see our chart with our light and the depth. So we've got common tank sizes shown here. Oh, that's a little bit too much. So we've got common tank sizes shown here and how deep they are, but you can also get a little nerdier about it and go, well, I've got this 15-gallon tank. It is 12 inches, but I'm running 3 inches of substrate there. So really that's more like 9 inches. It's going to be quite high par. And then if I've got a tall plant, it's going to be more. And so what our goal was here, let me hit back here. Our goal was that you could take our light and you can adjust it. It's got from 10% all the way to 100%. And so you can buy plants and you can adjust your light and the algae and the nutrients that goes with it. It's a whole working easy system. And so if you take something like this, you go, okay, great. We've got the Amazon sword. We need to feed it lots of root tabs. It's a very heavy root feeder. We know that. A little bit of Easy Green will help as well. You'll probably have a mix of plants, so you'll probably be doing both of those anyway. If you take a look at Easy Green, you can also click over here. We go to Easy Green. And we can see here that we have PAR recommendations based on dosing as well, right? So if you know the PAR of your light, whether it's ours or not, you can go, okay, if I'm in this low light zone, maybe I'm dosing once a week. Maybe if I'm in the medium zone, right, I'm going to dose more than once a week right here. So that is another way in which it helps you. So now, why did I start with all of that before I really got into diving into plants? Because you kind of need to know when we start looking at, when I talk about this plant would be good for this, and this is doing this, and this is doing that, you want to have the basis of where would I find more information. We covered that. Where am I? What is a PAR value? The PAR value is the measurement of light at where the plant would be planted, or the substrate, or wherever that's going to be. Depends on what we're talking about. And then you've got nutrients. So as long as you're providing nutrients and light, and you get a reasonable plant, you're going to do really well. So then we can talk about placement and where plants are easy, and for the most part, we focus majorly, is that a word? For the most part, we focus on plants that are easy, but also look good, right? And what does that mean? That means that there are plants that look amazing, but die at the drop of a hat, a little bit too much temperature, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. These are plants that in general are considered easy. Now, some of them can be high light and lots of CO2, but still easy to actually grow. And then some of them are very low light and still easy to grow. And there's thousands of plants out there, and you'll see a lot of companies that just have every listing. But then when you dig into it, you're like, well, the listings aren't that in depth. How are they, and you'll find companies that even have ones that aren't meant to grow underwater. And so what I want to break it down to is sword plants are kind of a great one, in my opinion. Whether it's an Amazon sword, Ocelot sword, red melons, red flames, pygmy chain swords, there's kind of a lot of swords. And we can actually, we cannot? Yeah, right here, sword plants. So we can sort and we can see, hey, look, there's all these different swords. What I like about these is you can use root tabs really heavily. You can almost basically never put in too many root tabs. I mean, obviously at some point, if it's all substrate is just root tabs, that's a problem. But you can really just load them up in there, put a lot underneath them, and they will thrive. And what I like about that is when you're using tons of root tabs, you don't grow very much algae because there's not as much in the water column, right? And so you get some of these plants, though, and they grow big. They get 3 feet. They'll fill in a big tank like this bad boy I got behind me. So do know they get fairly big on these, Amazon sword, the queen, marble queen, red melon, flame, ocelot. And then like the micro sword and the dwarf chain sword, those are more like mid or foreground plants in big tanks. Maybe in nano tanks, they're more of a mid to background, but they don't get super big. They stay fairly small. But again, they want a lot of root tabs or nutrient-rich substrate. I don't want to discount that if you're using an ADA soil or a fluval stratum or a contra soil or something like that. All of those would work as well. I will put in the caveat that I'm not a big fan of those because they typically will change your pH a bit. I don't like that. And then because your substrate is kind of like it's all root tabs or all nutrients, you do get that whole top layer adding nutrients into the water column, making a lot of algae, right? And so if you're doing just these really heavy root feeders, you're also feeding the algae, where when you break it up into a liquid system and a root tab system, you can actually choose how much is going in the water column, how much is staying at the root level, and actually play with that and control algae, where you don't really get that option with an enriched substrate. It's very hot at the beginning, and hot just means lots of nutrients. And then every week, every month that goes by, it's a little bit less hot, a little bit less hot. And then you might hit a zone of like 3 to 6 months in, it's its sweet spot, and it runs like that for a year. And then it doesn't have enough. And so every 2 to 3 years for a lot of people, you've got to either start using root tabs or swap out the substrate. And when you look at the price of those substrates, they're very expensive. So I myself am a big fan of gravel and using what you got and not mineralizing, but supplementing your substrate with root tabs. And not everything needs root tabs, by the way. Everything can have root tabs, but you might go, hey, I've got this giant sword in the corner and it eats 10 root tabs a month, and the rest of my aquarium is Java ferns and Java moss and Anubias, and they want water column fertilizer. So, in that case, yes, the top layer of substrate would help, but as it's exposed to the water the most, it's gonna expend itself the fastest. So then you've got stem plants, I would say. So we've got this Rotala, which is a new one, not really to us, but new for us to sell online. We've got the Pogo, which is a big seller for us. There's over 1,000 reviews. People love this plant. It is low light. It is easy. Add water and kind of go. Give it some easy green, and boom, it'll get out of control for you, real nice. Stem plants. So when you're growing them, they're gonna grow. Let me go back to that listing actually. We're not saying how tall it is. Okay, but we do say that they are heavy root feeders as well, so you can feed a lot of root tabs. I wasn't sure if we were saying how tall, and a lot of people get confused with stem plants because they're as tall as you'll let them grow. They could be 2 inches tall in a very small Pico tank, or they could be 2 feet tall in my 800-gallon aquarium, because they just grow kind of like a tree. They just grow upward until you cut them. Now, when you cut them, typically what happens is you make a cut on the stem, boom, and where you make the cut on that stem, it'll fork out and make 2. So if you want to make a plant that's really bushy, keep cutting it low, and it'll keep forking out and getting really bushy. And then the parts that you cut off, you can actually stick those down in the substrate and they will root out. Or a lot of times you can let them float around on the top of an aquarium, maybe not your show tank, maybe it's another tank, and they will grow arterial roots, which basically just means all the nodes will start growing roots. You got lots of roots all of a sudden, makes them really easy to plant. So stem plants, when they're very alluring when you're new, because they look cool and they grow really fast and they're fairly cheap, but they take constant trimming. You're trimming every 7 to 10 days to keep them looking anyway halfway cool. They also consume a lot of fertilizer. And so when they consume a lot of fertilizer, you're dosing a few times a week to keep up with it. And usually it's fun for the first couple years. Then as you get more aquariums and have other passions in life as well, you like crypts and swords and Anubias and Java ferns, the ones that are slower growing, to give you like, oh, that's a trim every 3 months as opposed to every 10 days, right? That's a huge difference. And to the average person, like if I was to ask my wife or someone in my family and I had all those types of plants, they'd be like, oh, they all look good. They're live plants. It looks so good in there. No one really cares how fast they're growing outside of, ooh, if I grow this pogo stem in really fast, like a foot a week, I could populate a lot of tanks. But then you have a lot growing all of a sudden. So let's see here. Let's scroll down a little bit. We're going to look at maybe some foreground plants. We've got Java moss here, these mats. They actually come on little squares. And so these squares are intentional. One, they sink right away, which is super good in our warehouse. Let's see if we have a warehouse picture of that. Maybe not. Oh, wait, right here, yeah. So they stay on a flat bottom for us. We just try to convert them for you. When you get them, let's see here. You can just place them on the bottom. Yep, like this. We got some shrimp on this one. The other trick that I really like, people go, well, how do I get the moss off of it? And I go, well, do you want the moss off of it? Because are you aware that metal mesh, you can wrap it around a rock or a piece of wood? It's a really easy way to get the aquascaper look, if you will, by just wrapping the metal around it. So I kind of like leaving like that. Otherwise, it'll sink to the bottom, which I like that too, and it gets established. It pretty much stays where you want to put it if you mold it around something. So yeah, I like that quite a bit. By the way, don't forget, when you buy plants, as long as you're buying 4 or more, doesn't have to be the same plant, it's mix and match, you save an extra 10%. So already we've marked down plants $7.99 for this moss mat, which is amazing in my opinion. And then if you were to buy a total of 4 plants or more, you will save 10%. So you'll save another 79 cents on top of that. So you're paying, $7.30 for a rad Java moss mat. So that would be the low light, easy to grow front carpet option. And then you would start, let's use our filters here and let's go by placement and let's go foreground. Here's all the different foreground plants we have. You can see there wasn't too many we carried for a long time. All the tissue culture plants are newer because people are still trying to figure out, like, how do I use these? They're different. They're smaller. So we had lots of dwarf hairgrass and Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo likes a lot of CO2. Dwarf hairgrass appreciates it but doesn't have to have it. The Crypt Parva doesn't have to have CO2, but it grows so slow, but can grow under very low light. So it's a plant where if you wanted a carpet of dwarf, or not dwarf, but Cryptocorum parva, give yourself like 2 years or buy 50 pots of it. It's really slow, but it's so good because it stays so tiny and it's low light, easy to grow. Anubis Santa Petite, that can be attached to wood and rock up front, stays pretty short, kind of self-explanatory. Crypt Lucens is a foreground plant in tanks that are kind of 16 inches above, so that's like 20 highs and higher, bigger. And then you've got, the true mini dwarf hairgrass, Apicilia, stays real tight. And then you've got these other epiphyte plants, which would be the Bucephalandras. And yes, they also work like the Anubis Santa Petite attached stuff. Now, if you've got hard water, listen up. Pogostem and Helferi, little crown plant, also known as Downoi, amazing front foreground plant. Gotta have hard water though. And then you've got things like Microsword, easy to grow. We kind of went over those. And Dwarf Chainsword, easy as well. And some more tissue. And moss balls. You could always have a bunch of moss balls out in front. Super sad story. In the last month, we tried to import some moss balls ourselves. Still had mussels. Had to destroy them all. Bummer. Then one of our vendors got lots and lots and lots of moss balls. And so we ordered 1,000 of them. And we found mussels. Had to destroy them all. So we're trying on these. They've been sold out for 8 months now. We're really trying to get them, but that invasive mussel is just creating problems, and the production outside of where they were coming from is not caught up. So just know that we're working on moss balls, and we hear you. So let's talk about, let's go different placement here. Let's talk about some light requirements. The highlight, typically, when you hit that 40-50 par, you can see we don't have a ton of them. Now, some of these plants you're going to look at, and I would argue most of these can also grow in lower light, but they like that higher light. So like Willow High Grow is for sure one that can grow in lower light, but man, it does really good at high light. This Rotala Hra, you will get kind of this coloration, this kaleidoscope of coloration in lower light. But as it transitions and as you give it really high light, you're going to see, oh, look at those pinks and reds and oranges. And you really need high light to get that extra bling going on. And kind of the same with, you can see here, this is an actual shot in our warehouse. And you see that, the green are the immersed leaves growing out of water. And then the red ones are the leaves that we've been growing underwater for you. And the higher light you give, the deeper reds those are going to be. But you can grow it in that medium-ish. And that's why we've got it, it's medium to high light. It won't do well low light for you. But in medium to high, it will do pretty good. Same thing with this Hygropenidifida. It can actually go in low light. I've grown it in low light. But it stays green and struggles. The more light you give it, the more you get these nice red, purpley leaves to it. And so that's where you get that medium to high. If we check out medium plants here, you can see when you start getting a medium, your options start getting bigger. You've got these crinums, you've got the Brazilian pennywort, you've got baby tears, which is not dwarf baby tears. You can see it here, we're sold out right now. But you see here, all these little leaves right there. looks very similar to people a lot of times when it's small to pearlweed. Pearlweed grows a little bit differently. I like that plant too, which you can see right here. To a lot of people, untrained eye, that's the same plant. But you see how this is more bushy and it will really fill in. I love this kind of a carping plant when you keep trimming it down. When you go back and we look at the baby tears, you can kind of see it's more strands and goes up, not so much bushy. Like they're close together, so they're bushy, but yeah, it is a different plant. So willow high grow is pretty cool because it'll grow up and out of your water. This is a plant that we've tried to carry a few times. It's always done really well for us. However, what you receive from us will look like this and this, but what it grows in the aquarium looks a little bit different. So we actually don't have we're working on getting the pictures, and maybe you can see some. I guess that's another education point. You can always click on all the reviews and look at pictures and see what other people have done just to get ideas and go, oh yeah, there's like, I know right there on the right-hand side is their willow high grow, because I know what that plant looks like. But you can see here, this person has basically go, hey, let me get a bunch of different plants. And we can see, oh, they put Cryptparva down at the kind of, let me scroll. I can't scroll down on this view. But down right, they did some Cryptparva. They did some Microsaur. They did Java Fern. They've done Wisteria in the back. And you can just keep looking through. One, I love to do this for inspiration. You go, okay, this is what I'm going to expect. This is what the plant's going to come looking like, right? And that's another one right there. Now these, you can see the reviews are from 2017 because people would order a plant, they'd see it online, and what online versus what you get is different. The leaves are much thinner. But we'll get good pictures of that to show everybody, and that's going to help. But I do love getting inspiration, like, oh, has anyone got a good-looking flame sword? Again, here's what they look like in our tanks. You can see the little red in the flame. And then we can hop in here and go, yep, there's one. There's a red flame sword in that bottom right. I always wish more people had backgrounds because plants and everything display better. You can see they're using our easy planters. And if we just keep kind of going through, you can see there that one's converting. That's why you see these leaves looking ragged. It's actually converting to fully submerged grown. Blurry picture, blurry picture. Yeah. Making babies, so that's always a good sign. There's a big one, right? So that one's been growing in for a while. Good to see. That one was bought in January, or at least the picture was put in January. Here you go. This person's going to teach you that when they're real happy, they throw out this spike. That's what that plant is coming out of there. And all of those nodes will become baby sword plants. So lots to learn. You can see that big stalk coming out is actually how it's making the babies. You can see here, making another little baby. And so there's all these little tidbits to always get out of the comment section. And I realize we're jaded and we're used to like Amazon comments where they're basically fake these days and not super helpful in Chat GPT. But you guys do an amazing job at actually holding us accountable and giving real life experience and all of that. And I always try to tell you guys, leave honest reviews. You're helping the next person trying to make a decision when they see this plant and they go, oh, well, that is normal. And then it grows into this beauty over here. We need to see all of that as a new hobbyist. Like, oh, okay, here, okay, the new leaves are coming in. These ones are this shape. Yeah, so you can see that right out of the package right there. That's what you expect to get. Oh yeah, I didn't even talk about that. All of our plants are bagged individually, labeled individually, and they come with this white bag that you see behind there. That is a bag specifically designed to keep the plants wet, but not have the leaves tear against the plastic. Now, some of the real fine leaves like lotuses and stuff like that, and Brazilian pennywort and some crypts, they still have some plant melt problems in transit just because those leaves are finer. But this goes a long way to help that. And I actually don't know of any other company that has them. I guess custom invented them. I had never heard anybody else do it. I just knew we were using paper towels for many years. And I was like, we're going through pallets of paper towels. This makes no sense. And then I had the idea of like, what if we made them out of a special material? And now we have them made and we have different sizes for different plants. And to the best of my knowledge, we're the only ones that do it. But as like fertilizer and everything else, you're the only one doing it that I know of. But tomorrow, or could be other people I don't know about. Hey, they got some fry in this one. All right, spent a long time on red flame swords. I like it. Let's see. What else can we learn about plants in general? Crinums, these plants, they take a long time to establish and they're not a weed. And what does that mean? That means that it takes, years to get a big one growing. You see that's where someone got a little baby. Starts growing out, getting bigger. They can get like 3 feet long. Yep, see? They grow from these little tubers, and they'll make little tubers when they make babies. But you got to get your plant to like 5 years old before it'll do that. So again, I was talking about enriched substrate. This tank actually has that enriched substrate. You can see they're struggling with this Monte Carlo or whatever it is on the left-hand side. The stuff on the right-hand side is getting more light, doing a little better. So just know that. Yeah. They also have a wonder shell in the back adding minerals. That's good. Yeah, just clicking through. One of the things about crinums that are really nice is they do well with goldfish. So Anubias, crinums, Java ferns, mostly those do well with goldfish. Yeah. And soon we're going to try to add some categories to the website that will let you sort by a few different fish types. So you might be able to pick out some that are great for like bettas. So if you have a betta, I really love dwarf aquarium lilies. Oh, I was like, why aren't they scrolling? Because I'm still in medium light plants. Yep. So dwarf aquarium lilies, let's see if we're sold out or not. Right here. We used to sell these in dirt, but too many people were having some problems getting them to sprout, or they wouldn't put them on the right way up or whatever. And so now we sell these little ones. The leaves usually tear in shipping, so just know when you buy it. Like, oh no, my leaves. But normally you're buying plants, you're just getting the roots anyway. That's really all you need is roots. Give it some love, it'll come back. And so again, just, you can pop into here. You see a little one with this yo-yo loach. You can see this one. This is very common. It says, here's what I got. They basically got 3 plants. So you get a bulb, and then it can detach from the bulb, and that can happen in shipping even. And so this person basically got 3 plants because you've got 3 sets of roots for the price of 1. But that won't always be the case, So you can see here, this is what we shipped. And once they actually took it apart, they got 3. So yeah, you can see this is what it looks like in 2 weeks. Right? So I guess I should mention that. One of the reasons I love this plant and grow under low light, gives you the red hues that you want, and can be a very fast grower. Once it sets up and gets its roots into your substrate and can really suck up all those nutrients, does super well. So yeah, week 1 to week 2, great growth. At least I think so. I assume you guys would too. And so, this one's actually planted a little too deep. When you plant the bulbs, you want about half the bulb under the substrate and half the bulb exposed. So they might have planted a little deep because they got looks like some Ranchu goldfish or lion heads right here. They also have their sponge filter, like maybe they added all the substrate afterwards. Yep, that one's got the bulb. That one we could do with a little bit, like being brought down a little bit, but yep, this one didn't thrive for the people, so hopefully they reached out and got a replacement. Now, this specific person, what I would tell them is you're running very fine sand. That makes it more difficult for all plants. That's just a reality of plants. They mostly want coarser substrates. So, yeah, another good looker right there. Ooh, duckweed. Yeah, they put the lily pads all the way on the surface, and so that's why it's great for a betta. So build bubble nests under it, provide shade. Yeah, you can see here's one starting to bud. Here's another one. Yeah, more goldfish there. Let's see what else can I wrap up here. I basically just want to stress that let me go back to the main scene here. We're a company. I'm a company that fell in love with live aquarium plants. and fish. I still am a fish guy first and a plant guy second. I am a master aquatic horticulturist. I run the systems at our warehouse, over 100 tanks filled with plants. You've seen them. And that is a different beast than one aquarium with one plant. Now, there's lots of algae you get to learn about, substrates, fertilizers, all of that. What I've been trying to do for the last basically 15 years of my life is how can I get more people to keep live plants? Because still majority of fish keepers don't keep live plants, by the way, which is mind blown. But when they do dip their toe into it, they end up getting a fertilizer that doesn't really do anything. They end up getting plants that aren't even really submersible because they got them at a chain store. They might be getting bunch plants. Oh, my number one pet peeve. Plants sold in a bunch are great days 1 and 2 they came in. Every other day they're this close to dying. And that's because we've either put a rubber band or a lead weight or something around them, and all those stems are sitting there rotting. And so really, a customer buys them, they drop it in their tank, hoping for the best and not getting that. Really, you need to take it home, cut that part off, plant the stems about 1 inch away from each other, and really nurse those things. Yeah, so maybe you got the bunch for $4, but now you got to put in a lot of energy and you got to be good at what you do. And most people that are buying those bunches aren't. And so I love to see the potted plant. Why do we mostly only sell potted plants? Well, the potted plants, the way we sell them, the roots are in the rock wool. That's the wool that it's in. And there's nutrient pellets already in it, right? So if you were to take that plant and you just put it in your aquarium, it's basically just going to grow. Perfect, right? Even if you don't buy anything from us, it'll grow for a while. Maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Really, it does want some extra fertilizer, but it will grow. You'll get that, okay, it's starting to do its thing. Good, right? And then you can improve its life. What I also love about potted plants is so many people that are buying potted plants also have newer aquariums. Yeah, sometimes you buy it for your old aquarium, but a lot of times you're setting up something new or it's relatively new. Well, all that rock wool is filled with bacteria from our tanks. So it brings beneficial bacteria over. It stays wet while we send it over to you. So that's another bonus right there. And then 2, in general, a potted plant is treated better in shipping. It's worth more. You don't get 1,000 bunch plants in a box. Instead, you get 50 potted plants in a box. They come in containers. They're built certain ways. And in general, just treated better through transit. And so the better we can get them, we're at the point now where we're overnighting plants to us. We spend the extra $400 or $500 a shipment, get them overnighted. And during the summer, we have them being placed in styrofoam containers, even though they're being overnighted, to get the best possible care so that we can put them into our tanks and get them growing and thriving and on our way to you. So yeah, potted plants, love them. Loose plants, if you know what you're doing, can work great. If you're getting them for a local hobbyist, even better. Local store, great too. Any of those options. Really, my goal is just that hopefully to help you keep live plants. And I've tried to make that as easy as I can. It started out with Easy Green. That was the first thing, right? Then it was Easy Root Tabs. Now it's Easy Aquarium LED. And all these things has always been my plan. Make them work together. If you can understand one of the pieces, it's easier to understand the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. And so now if you have our light, you know what par value you have in your aquarium. So now you have a rough idea how much fertilizer to put in and what types of plants are going to thrive. Instead, what I observed for so many years was I owned an aquarium light, I bought some plants, and these are the 2 that lived. And it was just purely attrition, what fish poop kept something alive, and everybody else was focusing on how do we make everyone a high-end aquascaper. And what I learned working in the store was people didn't necessarily want to become a high-end aquascaper. They liked those tanks, but when I would say, well, what tanks in my fish store here, what ones look good to you? Do you like any of these? And they'd be like, well, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one, I like this one, something like this. And I'd be like, yep, low light, low light, low light, easy. That's just a Nubius, that's this, that's this. And all of a sudden they'd be like, so I don't need all this lighting. I don't need CO2. I don't need these things. I go, no, what you want a slice of nature in your living room. That we can do pretty darn easy. You want to recreate Stonehenge? Well, now you got to develop a certain different set of skills. So My skill set has always been, let me help teach you, let me help guide you, let me put something out there, take the feedback, massage it a little bit, try to make it better for the next person after you, and make it one step easier, one step easier, one step easier. Whether you like to read blog articles, or whether you like to watch all the videos we've done, or whether you want to go through the help center, or whether you want to reach out to our customer service, any of those are going to be available to you once you start using our system. And it's easier for us too. When you go, I own a light, or I own light XYZ, I don't know the par off the top of my head. I've never owned that light. So I can't tell you what plants are best, or how strong would you run this light, or does it have too much blues? Because the blue light helps grow algae. I know, but is it too much? I don't know. So the more you're baked into our system, the easier it becomes. But we will, keep doing videos and all that, and we'll continually just try to break it down and make it easier and easier and easier, because your guys' success is our success. So hopefully you had fun shopping the website. I realize it's self-serving for sure. We make money if you guys buy from us, and we appreciate that. But we also hope that, I hope the relationship becomes something like a good vet, where I'm very appreciative when my vet can help me with my animal. And yes, vets are expensive, and yes, it costs money. But the only thing worse than that is spending the money and not getting the good service for your animal, or the good thing you need, right? And so our goal is always, yep, I know no one wants to spend money, but if you do, let's try to give you the best possible experience. And that's what we focus on every day. So thanks for watching, and let us know if we can be of help. Reach out to customer service, place an order, join our Facebook group, go to our forum, any of those, go to our website, read the articles, do all of that, and take it all in, and hopefully you'll become a plant master.